Friday afternoon, April 30th, 2026. A traffic camera in Rochester, Minnesota catches something that traffic cameras are not supposed to catch. A tornado, on camera, moving through one of the upper Midwest's most important medical and commercial cities. Not a brief rope tornado in open farmland, a tornado moving through a populated area, through streets that have buildings and cars and people who, less than a week ago, were watching the outbreak start in Oklahoma and thinking this was someone else's problem. The Olmsted County Sheriff's Office confirms it on Facebook. Widespread damage. No injuries in Olmsted County itself. A small mercy in what is otherwise an extraordinarily destructive sequence of events. But one neighborhood, Marion, takes the worst of it. Approximately 30 homes damaged in Marion alone. 10 more in other parts of the Rochester area. Rows of homes with roofs missing, entire upper stories gone, the kind of aerial damage footage that CNN's affiliate Carrie flies over the next morning, and that makes you stop and stare at your screen trying to count the number of structures affected before giving up, because there are too many. And Rochester is not the end of the story on Friday, April 30th. It is not even close to the end, because at the same time the Rochester tornadoes are happening, Marathon County in central Wisconsin is reporting significant damage from a tornado that passed through Ringel. Approximately 75 homes damaged in that small town. Search and rescue teams helping people trapped in basements, some homes demolished, no deaths reported. The Ringel fire chief telling CNN affiliate WSOW that the damage was extraordinary. In Lena, Illinois, a small town in Stevenson County, drone footage taken Saturday morning shows something that the county sheriff cannot entirely believe. Homes with their roofs ripped off, possessions scattered inside the exposed structures, widespread structural damage to homes and businesses, and somehow, against all statistical probability, no deaths and no injuries. Stevenson County Sheriff Steve Stovall saying at a Saturday morning press conference, "As I drove around last night, I just shook my head. I couldn't believe that we didn't have one injury." And in Belton, Missouri, a city in the Kansas City metropolitan area, a tornado moves through, causing widespread damage, several minor injuries, and the kind of citywide damage assessment that takes days to complete. 24 hours? Rochester, Ringel, Lena, Belton. At least 24 tornadoes confirmed in a single 24-hour stretch. More than 120 reports of large hail. The level 4, high risk that had targeted the northwest Oklahoma to western Missouri corridor on Friday, including Kansas City and Wichita, fulfilling its promise with giant hail and destructive wind gusts over 80 miles per hour as the primary threats. A level 3 enhanced risk extending as far north and east as eastern Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois, including St. Louis, Chicago, and Madison, also delivered. Flash flooding threatening already soaked Chicago and Milwaukee, where water rescues had been happening for days as precipitation accumulated on ground that had no more capacity to absorb it. Power out for more than 50,000 homes and businesses in Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Oklahoma by Saturday morning. And the thing that makes this specific moment, this broadcast, right now on May 1st, 2026, different from every previous day of coverage in this extraordinary spring season is this. According to the Wikipedia Tornadoes of 2026 page, updated as recently as yesterday, there have been 0 notable tornado events recorded in May so far. 0. Not because May does not have notable tornado events. May is historically the single most active month for tornadoes in the United States. Not because the season is winding down. The SPC's Day 4 through 8 outlook published this morning at 2:34 a.m. Central describes a significant new severe weather setup developing next week. Because the calendar just flipped. We are 1 day into May. The month has not had time to produce its tornado events yet. But the atmospheric setup that is currently being described by the Storm Prediction Center for early next week is exactly the kind of setup that fills the May tornado count in a hurry. Here is what the SPC's Day 4 through 8 outlook, the medium range forecast, published this morning, describes for Monday, May 4th, 2026. An upper trough will develop southward across the northern plains and upper Midwest. At the same time, another upper trough will be oriented over Southern California and offshore over the Pacific. In response to modest height falls and increasing westerly flow across the Rockies, a lee low will develop over the central and southern high plains. Increasing southerly low-level flow will allow modified Gulf moisture to return northward ahead of a dry line across the southern plains. This is the textbook setup. This is the setup that tornado forecasters recognize as the beginning of a classic southern plains tornado outbreak. A surface low developing over the high plains, a dry line advancing eastward through Texas and Oklahoma, Gulf moisture surging northward ahead of it, and an upper-level trough providing the wind shear and forcing that organizes individual thunderstorm cells into long-track supercells. The SPC's language for the tornado threat on Monday is specifically cautious because confidence is not yet high enough for the highest risk levels. But it also states directly that the tornado risk is present, with questions about storm mode and low-level destabilization still to be resolved as the period comes into better model focus. The AccuWeather Tornado Season Forecast, published February 28th, 2026, and now being validated by the Season in Real Time, said something specific about May that every viewer of this broadcast needs to internalize. As the calendar turns to May, the focus will shift toward the traditional tornado alley, with areas from central Texas to eastern Nebraska facing the highest tornado risk. The most consistent corridor for severe weather episodes is expected to set up in the typical areas from the eastern plains into the mid-Mississippi Valley and western Ohio Valley. This is the geographic shift happening right now. The April outbreak that stretched from Oklahoma and Texas through Illinois and Wisconsin and Minnesota, an outbreak the Wikipedia documentation has totaled at 87 confirmed tornadoes for the entire sequence. That outbreak is the tail end of the front-loaded April pattern. May brings a different pattern. The classic Southern Plains setup, the kind that produces long-track wedge tornadoes in open Texas and Oklahoma terrain, that advances northeast into Kansas and Nebraska, that can reach the same metropolitan areas that April's outbreaks hit, but from a different direction, with a different atmospheric character. Here's the reason that May's storms will hit very differently from April's, even if the atmospheric parameters look similar on paper. Alert fatigue. The concept is real, it is documented, and it kills people. The residents of Rochester, Minnesota, who heard a tornado warning on Friday afternoon, had also heard tornado warnings, or their neighbors had, in April's multiple outbreaks that moved through Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois. The residents of the communities near Kansas City that experienced the Belton tornado on Friday had been receiving severe weather alerts continuously since April 23rd, 9 consecutive days. The public communication challenge of a May outbreak that follows a record April is not the same as the public communication challenge of a May outbreak in isolation. It is harder. The warning arrives, and it sounds like the warning that arrived last week and the week before. It looks like the same radar polygon on the same weather app. It feels like the same urgent tone. And the cognitive response of a population that has been responding to urgent weather alerts continuously for more than 2 weeks is different from the cognitive response of a population receiving its first severe weather. Alert of the spring. People take a second to decide whether to move to the shelter. Some of them decide not to. The NWS Trump funding cuts dimension of this story cannot be ignored in a broadcast about a storm that is about to get worse, because the Wikipedia Tornadoes of 2026 documentation records something specific about the Union City, Michigan EF. 3 tornado that killed 3 people in March. According to federal weather officials, neither a tornado watch nor a severe thunderstorm watch was put into effect in Michigan during that outbreak, because the storm was primarily concentrated in a small 3-county area that made it difficult to detect in advance. Governor Whitmer's office called for a probe into the absence of a tornado watch alert and questioned whether it could be attributed to President Donald Trump's funding cutbacks to the National Weather Service. The NWS funding cuts are documented. The staffing reductions are documented. Whether they directly contributed to the warning gap in Union City, Michigan, is a question that is still being investigated. But the pattern is worth naming. A season in which the NWS is operating with reduced staffing and reduced budget is also the season that has produced 87 confirmed tornadoes from a single April outbreak sequence, a Rochester, Minnesota traffic camera tornado, 75 damaged homes in Ringgold, Wisconsin, and a May Plains tornado setup for next Monday. The moment when you need the best possible warning infrastructure is not a theoretical future moment. It is happening right now. Here is the specific practical information for everyone in the Southern Plains and the adjacent mid-Mississippi Valley heading into next week. The SPC's Day 4 through 8 outlook has placed the highest uncertainty risk area for Monday in a corridor that encompasses central and southern Kansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas, and eastern Colorado, the geographic heart of the classic Southern Plains severe weather corridor. This will come into sharper focus over the weekend as the next several model runs resolve the timing, intensity, and exact placement of the features. Watch the SPC Outlook updates Saturday evening and Sunday morning. If a level 3 enhanced risk or higher is in place for your area on Monday, treat it with the specific urgency of the first day of a new outbreak, not the 9th day. Because for the Southern Plains, it will be the first day of a new setup in the classic May tornado corridor, with fresh atmospheric fuel, a fresh dry line, and the classic ingredients that produce long-track violent tornadoes. The Kansas City area, which the iWeatherNet tornado count documentation noted, has had a number of severe storm and tornado warnings in 20s. 26, that is in a league of its own year to date as of April 27th, is likely to be in or near the threat zone again. And here is the accumulation number that frames everything. 87 confirmed tornadoes from the April 22nd to April 27th outbreak sequence alone. 15 tornado-related deaths. Confirmed globally in 2026, 12 in the United States, with the season still in its most dangerous month. A day 4 through 8 SPC outlook that is already signaling the next significant severe weather setup, and a Wikipedia Tornadoes of 2026 page that records, right now, today, on May 1st, 0 notable tornado events in the month of May. That 0 is not a forecast. It is a blank page waiting to be filled. May is the peak month. The setup is developing. The storm is about to get a lot worse. Check your warnings, know your shelter, and do not let alert fatigue convince you that the one coming next is the one that will miss you